The slogan says, number 5, rest in the nature of Alaya, the essence of the path. Rest in the nature of Alaya, the essence of the path. So, what is this Alaya? In Tibetan, Gunje. In Sanskrit, Alaya. So, in general, there are two Alayas. One is called all of the primordial nature, or the ultimate primordial universal. First. The second Alaya is basis of everything, which is in Tibetan, Gunje. Gun means all, everything. Je means basis, the foundation. So it is one of the 8 collections of consciousness. It is like the ocean, and the other different consciousness are like its webs. So another way to explain this is, it's like piece of gold, Alaya. It's like a piece of gold. Let's say you have different gold ornaments, gold earrings, gold necklaces, etc. You have different, earrings and rings, and they are different shapes, right? Different shapes, different size. They're very different size, but they're all similar in being gold. Your necklaces, your earrings, your ring, everything, right? It's a different shape, different size, but gold. Everything's gold. Similarly, all the non-conceptual consciousness are completely different in characteristics and the way of grasping their objects, but they are all similar in being clear and knowing or cognitive. So the gold, for example, the gold is the universal ground consciousness, Alaya. And the ornaments of different shapes and size are the other consciousness, like eye consciousness, ear consciousness, all this. So when you sleep, this ornamental consciousness faint into this ground, just like they do when you are dying. So the teachers say that going to sleep is similar to the experience of death. So watching this process of falling asleep and the dissolution of the senses is a very helpful practice for working with the experience of death. So, in the night we're going to die. In the morning we're kind of newborn. That's a nice way to practice impermanence. I mean, when you go to sleep, actually you don't see, you don't hear, nothing, right? So all this non-conceptual consciousness dissolve into this Alaya. This Alaya is very important. I mean, it's very important kind of this relative, let's say relative Alaya. There are two, right? One is ultimate Alaya, one is relative Alaya. This relative Alaya, very important. Sometimes no thoughts arise. They have disappeared. There's no positive thoughts like faith, devotion, compassion, but in there, no thoughts. Um, there are also sometimes negative thoughts like attachment, desire, etc. So they dissolve into the ground consciousness. That's what we call alaya. But usually all the thoughts, afflictions, and many other thoughts arise and come up in our minds. So therefore, our different experience of happiness and suffering appear to the mind and arise through the power of the mind. So this is the relative universal ground consciousness, or alaya. So that's the slogan says, right? Rest in the nature of alaya. So now this slogan and this instruction means that in sitting practice of meditation, there are two ways to practice meditation. One is looking without any conceptualization at the nature of mind, which is ultimate alaya, right? This nature is emptiness, and not only emptiness, but also clarity. It is clarity in that it has the characteristic of wisdom, and yet it is not established as anything. So the nature of that clarity is emptiness. So in this meditation, you look at the nature of your mind and find there is nothing at all that you have to think about. So you just look at the nature of mind and relax and develop stability. We're not there yet, right? But the other meditation on alaya is going beyond the 7 types of consciousness and resting in the 8th consciousness, which is alaya. Very important. This is very important. This is your kind of sweet home, The idea of resting your mind in this basic relative alaya is to free yourself from thoughts and perceptions so that you have some kind of a relaxation with yourself. So if you rest and meditate on this relaxation, you might have a chance to recognize the true nature of mind, if you are lucky. You are not trying to recognize this nature of mind immediately at this point. But this instruction on resting in the nature of alaya is good for developing a stable mind and a good, very good foundation. So therefore, this slogan says, rest in the nature of alaya, the essence of path. So this has 2 meanings, right? One is the nature of alaya. It's the ultimate alaya. The one is the relative alaya. It is beyond the 7 consciousness. So you are relaxing on the 8th consciousness, which is alaya. So this kind of meditation is therefore a good foundation of the true nature of mind. Mapam Rinpoche said that. So it gives you a great chance to recognize the ultimate nature, and you don't have to follow your discursive thoughts all the time. So for that reason, it is said that you rest in the nature of alaya, or the ground consciousness. Do you understand? The example is very important. I give you the example, right? The alaya is like ocean. Your other, this conceptual, these thoughts, this consciousness are like waves. So they come from ocean, they dissolve into ocean. Another example is your ground consciousness, this alaya, is like a piece of gold. Just as I said, it's very easy to remember. And then other consciousness is like your ornaments, like your earrings, necklaces, and all other things, but they all being a gold. So, how should you rest in the nature of this ground consciousness? That's the thing, right? This is the relative alaya. You meditate on this. Ground consciousness is a great foundation. And this is the way you develop a stable mind. So you need meditate on this ground consciousness. So you rest in the nature of this ground consciousness. The way of resting the mind is called placement meditation. Placement meditation. So it has no concerns, and there is not any thought in this meditation, but you are not like rock, there's no thought. This makes your mind very stable. So resting in the nature of alaya means, again, going beyond the six sense consciousnesses. If you go beyond the six senses, you find there is a basic experience of nature of virtue or the basic goodness, which is known as alaya. So you should meditate on this repeatedly as your main meditation session, because there is very peaceful and relaxing experience. So usually the Tibetan meditators, they practice, sometimes they call this meditation shamatha meditation. There is object shamatha meditation, objectless shamatha meditation, but this kind of meditation is objectless shamatha meditation. You just rest in this ground consciousness, which means you not follow your thoughts. So which means you are developing the stability, your mind. So we have lots of different instructions, methods for this meditation, because it's very important. Sometimes people really have no idea what is alaya, what is ground consciousness. This is very important, especially Tibetan Buddhist philosophy point of view. This is they have like hundreds of pages, commentaries and about this alaya, because it's very important. This is actually how we develop our other meditation. We need a good foundation. But what is a good foundation? Meditate on alaya. My first the teacher, not first teacher, Anzam Drukpa Rinpoche, the first Anzam Drukpa Rinpoche, he his students sometimes like 7 years only let them meditate on alaya. 7 years. And then your mind is really flexible. Stay there forever, like 1 week, no problem, no thoughts. But that's not the essence, though. Once you have that good foundation, then you have to move on. Only you meditate on this meditation, there is no chance to attain enlightenment. So therefore, but that's why they call this a good foundation. So that's alaya, okay? Alaya means here, rest in the nature of alaya, the essence of the path. The essence of the path means good foundation. Essence of path. There are two ways to remember. If you meditate on ultimate alaya, of course, that is the liberation. Essence of path. If you meditate on relative alaya, that is the foundation.